Shantell Williams bought her first motorcycle before she even knew how to ride. 8 months later, she rode through 48 states in less than a month and had no idea that her journey was going into the record books. In 2020, she took a second ride, beating her own record. And this time it happened in the middle of a global pandemic. Here's Amy Sweezey with Shantell's story.
It's a good place to be, right?
When Shantell Williams was young, she didn't know a lot of heroes who looked like her. But in her early 40s, she discovered a woman named Bessie Stringfield, the first African-American woman to ride a motorcycle across America in the 1930s. Bessie looked like Shantell. She rode like Shantell. And suddenly, Shantell had the urge to tell everyone her story.
And I'm gonna cry, and I didn't think I was. What can I do that can draw attention to her? So if another little girl wants somebody that looks like them to be a hero, they'll know about her. And I think my heart just, I went there. And it was forever the moment, like, man, I can't wait to share. I can't wait to share.
In 2016, Shantell brought attention to Bessie's story by riding her Harley across 48 states in 27 days. Even more amazing than the record-setting ride, the fact that Shantell had only been riding motorcycles for 8 months. She bought her first one without even knowing how to ride. Once the ride around the U.S. began, reality set in.
Day 7, I was not the same person I was on day 1. I was totally reborn, literally. It felt like parts of me that lived, that parts of that fear to fight through. It was like going through a birth, So I remember crying on day 7. So I think some of the other 20 days was just trying to find a reason to quit. But in between, if I keep riding, I'll make some miles up as I'm riding. So it was stunning, and it's probably nobody more shocked than me that it actually happened.
Shantell's 2016 ride set a Guinness World Record. Later that year, Harley-Davidson inducted Bessie Stringfield into their Hall of Fame and created the Shantell Williams Mileage Award, given annually. 4 years later, in the middle of a global pandemic, polarizing political views, and racial injustice, Shantell set out again. This time documenting her trip for an upcoming docuseries called Shut Up and Ride. Shantell says she had more conversations on 2020's road trip that encouraged her about the direction we're headed as a country.
What the world was going through was very humbling to a lot of people that perhaps had never went through many challenges, certainly not, the pandemic. So it changed the direction. And so people took a little more time out to talk. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? How do you feel about it? And what are your feelings now about what's going on?
She recalls meeting Frank in Nevada, a 65-year-old white man who drove a pickup truck.
He goes, "Have you ever been stopped by the police for being black?" And I thought about it for a second. I said, "Yeah, but I also been stopped because I've been speeding." And we laugh again. And he goes, "Well, what? How did that make you feel?" And I go, "Well, what makes me feel right this moment is that's changing from this moment forth, because the fact that we can have this conversation." And I told Frank, I said, "I'll probably never forget you, and I'll share the story because it's a moment for me."
When Shantell isn't on her Harley, she is serving up delicious Southern food for the soul in her restaurant in Sanford, Florida. Her husband and several of her 10 children can usually be found helping. Many small businesses struggled to stay afloat in 2020, including Shantell's. But she says the pandemic actually helped her see the good in people. It forced her community to come together. Shantell kept her staff of 17 on board. They cooked but had few customers. Instead of throwing the food out, they delivered it to hospitals and first responders.
Yeah, we were definitely so blessed to have, I call it, my PPP was people protecting people. I'd go to the mailbox and I'd get a check for $100, check for $50, check for $500, complete strangers. Here's $200 toward feeding somebody else. And they don't know, it was truly feeding somebody else. COVID has made us better. You know, it's always a silver lining, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.